This is what it comes down to. The Chiefs are going to finish their season against the Broncos. I always call these Broncos too. What is it going to look like? It's going to be different than anything you've ever seen so far this week on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back in, everybody. The last regular season Red Friday is brought to you by Prize Picks. You can get there now at prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use our code that's all lowercase, LockedOnNFL. You'll get $50 instantly when you play $5. Last time that we're going to do this in the regular season. First time we're going to do this with a number of primetime players this particular week. This is Chris Clark for KC Chiefs Corner. You can find him over there. That's his Substack. I'm Ryan Tracy over at NFL33.com, where you can see my latest piece on Bill Belichick and the craziness that is going on around his story, as well as RGR Football. Please check those out and support us over there. We very much appreciate you supporting us here. Thanks for making us your first listen. Make another Locked On show your next one. And make sure that you like and sub and do all the things on all the platforms everywhere, because we're available 5 days a week for free, just like always. For that much more, you can get the text line at 816-357-8781. Going to get into our normal process here. We're going to give you the predictions. As ludicrous as they may be on a game that we don't know who's going to play, we're going to give them to you. We're going to tell you who the X factors are, because that we definitely can break down for you. That's coming up later in the show. The must-win matchups, who's going to be out there, some Pro Bowlers for the Broncos, some guys that are playing some elite ball on that. Who gets to go against them? That'll come up here in a little bit. And we're going to start and lead the way, which is always the way that you begin, with the quarterback position. Andy did confirm Patrick Mahomes not going to play. We already knew that. According to the injury report, Chris Jones, Isaiah Pacheco, and Juwan Taylor did not practice here on Wednesday and Thursday so far this week. Those guys aren't going to play either. No surprise for me whatsoever. It's going to be Wentz leading the way, kind of like what we thought. You feel better about it?
You know, I will say this. I feel a little bit better about Wentz than I did a couple days ago. I think that this is exactly the situation that can help him and really help this team basically really prepare. I've been back and forth on whether or not I thought he should play, because I do think that he could be a key piece if something happens to Mahomes in the playoffs. Obviously don't want that to happen, but I also understand he doesn't really get field reps. He doesn't really get a chance to go out and really play. So this makes sense. Get him in there. I still don't know how much they're going to throw the ball. That's the other thing that I am curious about. And when we talk about Wentz leading the backups, is he really going to be leading the backups? Because I still wonder if his offensive line is mainly going to be intact in the interior. Like, I don't think DJ Humphries is going to play, although he could be out there. They could put him out there for a couple of snaps just to try to get him some game action and bring him back from the injury, because he won't play next week, obviously, because everybody will be off for a bye. But, you know, are Tooney and Creed and Trey Smith going to play? Because if they're out there playing, that really helps Wentz. And you're not going to get to see some of the young guys, but those offensive linemen want to play every snap. So he is going to be leading the backups when it comes to the wide receiver group. I guarantee that. Travis Kelce won't be playing in this game, so you're going to be dealing with that. I don't know how much Noah Gray is going to play, but we talked about this early on in the week. They can only call up one other person because Patrick isn't going to be suited up unless he's the emergency third QB, and I don't think Andy's going to put him in regardless of the situation in any way, shape, or form. So at this point, I think, you know, you have your team, and we'll see who ends up being able to throw to. I can't imagine any of the wide receivers that have been getting more acclimated are going to be in this offense, and in some ways it's actually kind of going to be fun for DeAndre Hopkins to be able to sit out, because you reduce the draft pick compensation because he's not going to be playing 60% of the snaps.
Oh, right. That's a good point. I didn't even consider that part. I do think, folks, what we're saying is that with Patrick not going to go, that Chris Olodokun will be the backup quarterback. Makes perfect sense. So you only have one other call-up, and we've gone back and forth all week, and I'm still hemming and hawing about who I really want to see it. I'm still leaning either D-line or Tyquan Thornton, as you said, just to give Hop rest and to give Hollywood rest for certain. We won't see Juwan Taylor. So the tackles are going to be the backups. It should be Kingsley, maybe Wanye, maybe Ethan Driscoll. I hope that we get to see a bit of both, to tell you the truth.
I'd sit Morris. I would sit Morris.
Yeah, I mean, if he's still hurting, for sure. We just got to see what kind of shape he's in. If I know Andy, I think he might want to get him a few reps, and maybe we'll see all three of them. But Other than that, I'd like to see the backups. I really want to see Norzad. That's one of the guys on my list that they've been carrying all year that we haven't had a chance to see much. So let Trey rest. Let Joe. Joe's done an admirable job. I hope that they rest him, but we're going to find out. Do they leave the interior three out there at least for a drive or two? Could be. But I think it comes back to this. Carson Wentz is in a position that he is playing for his next contract because a lot of people around the league, and I happen to agree, think that he could still be a starter for somebody in this league, especially look at all the quarterback meltdowns that have happened this year. I do think there's going to be a market, and if he puts his best foot forward there, even with some backups, I think in Andy Reid's offense, I think he has a chance to really shine.
I don't disagree with you, but this is not the defense that he's going to be. This is not going to be a great situation for him to be stepping into and showing out. He's going to be in there with the backup wide receivers going up against a Denver team that has to win to make the playoffs. I mean, they're in a situation where when it comes down to it, they're not going to know about the Miami game, which is really what it's going to come down to for them. Cincinnati's game will be over on Saturday, but the Broncos and the Dolphins play at the same time at 3:30. So they're not going to know what happens. They're going to know that they probably have to win to be in. So that's a tough situation for a quarterback to come into with a bunch of backups. Granted, he has most experience with those guys. I'll be curious. I don't think it happens this week because you talked about McCall Hardman earlier and him being on the, limited at practice. So I can't imagine he's coming back this week. And with all the other roster moves they're going to have to do to make room for McCall Hardman, which is another one that they would have to make. So I can't see that happening. And there's no real reason to rush him back. If they want him back for the playoffs, practice him this weekend as much as you possibly can. Practice him next week because they'll be off, but they're still going to have practice of some sort. They just won't be playing a game. And then practice him before, the divisional game, and he'll be ready to go. You can activate him then. And it's going to be a little disappointing for me because I really like what Nico's done at the returner position, but I understand why they want Hardman too, because Hardman can bring something offensively that we haven't seen from Nico, but we're going to get a chance to have an idea of what Nico can bring this week.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to that because I feel like he's played with such an edge on special teams. That's got to bleed over onto the offensive side of the ball, and it's a matchup that's going to be super tough for him, but I think he can show us something. The matchups are what we have to get into because that's the X and O's of how they get this W coming. That's on the backside of this. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings. Prize Picks has daily fantasy sports and makes it accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your money. Run your game all season long at Prize Picks. They make it simple, and they even invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out, even if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money, even if one of your picks doesn't hit. So sign up today, and you can get $50 instantly when you play a $5 lineup. You don't even have to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Download the Game Time app and use our code LOCKEDONNFL, and you're going to get $50 instantly after you play a $5 lineup. Super simple. Download that app, use our code LOCKEDONNFL, and get that 50 bonus for playing a $5 lineup. Super easy over at Prize Picks.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. What do you want your 2025 story to be? Every January brings a new chapter, 365 blank pages waiting for you to fill them. If there's a part of your life you want to rewrite, or a plot twist you've been craving, why wait? Life isn't about fleeting resolutions. It's about taking control and becoming the author of your own story. Think of therapy as your personal editor, helping you craft the life you deserve. It's not just for crisis situations. Therapy can help you develop healthier coping strategies, improve your relationships, and empower you to be the best version of yourself. Whether you're facing a new challenge or just looking for personal growth, therapy is a powerful tool to help guide your journey. Whether it's learning to set boundaries or tackling stress in new ways, therapy can help you develop skills for a better tomorrow. Even if you've never tried therapy, the benefits are clear. Finding someone to talk to and gaining fresh perspectives can make all the difference in how you navigate life's ups and downs. Write your story with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon.
A lot has to go into winning a ball game, especially if you're not somebody that is a starter on this roster. We will see A lot of backups play a lot of significant time. So who and how can they go about trying to do that? Number of Broncos has been recognized in the Pro Bowl voting in particular, guys that are going to get attention. No more so than Pat Surtain, their standout corner. And as we were talking about before, Nico Romeo is going to have a tough match up there. But there's also going to be other guys that get to play against him. Riley Moss is going to be out there. I think there's still opportunity, despite how well that they've played, that maybe a little bit of tension, maybe a little bit of overplaying, because as you said, there's going to be pressure on this team. Denver Broncos have to win to get in.
Yep.
So I do think there's going to be some opportunity, especially for some play action fakes, maybe some RPOs that we know Carson Wentz can run as well. There are opportunities for those receivers over the top, and they need to take advantage of it when they see them in order to get chunk plays.
Yeah, and I do think, and I said this in the crossover yesterday, the big thing for me is that Denver is going to be in a pressure situation. They've not faced this. They don't know what this is going to be like. A lot of the young players haven't been, in situations like this when you're talking about the NFL football, and a lot of their veterans haven't been in playoff type atmospheres, which is exactly what this is going to be. And not necessarily because of who they're playing, but because of what is at stake for them to play to win this game. If they don't win, they're out, more than likely. And at this point, you would want to at least get your QB experience in the playoffs, get your whole team experience in the playoffs, so you can get going in the right direction. I'm going to be curious to see how Remigio steps up and steps into this role. I'm curious to see how the Denver Broncos play, because one thing with pressure is sometimes you make mistakes because you're trying to do everything perfectly. And Kansas City in this game is probably going to come out looser than anything else because they have nothing on the line. So to me, that could have a huge swing. Talent-wise, it shouldn't be a close game. But talent isn't everything. It's based on how you prepare. And the Broncos aren't going to have a clue as to some of the guys that they're going to be facing because they don't have tape on them.
True. And that makes a huge difference just in that one-on-one matchup. Some teams just have the matchup advantage. I think the one that has the biggest advantage right now, and I'm really keen to see how this goes down, is Pro Bowlers for Denver are more on the offensive side more on the defensive side than they are the offensive side. First time they've had multiple Pro Bowlers in a bit that really scare the Chiefs based on like matchup. And obviously Nick Bonito has been the speed rusher, not only of the Denver defense, but one of the quickest to the passer all season long across the league. Now he's going to get a backup tackle. I expect it to be Kingsley Suamataia, and that's a good test for him. Kingsley is the athletic type. He does have to protect deep, and he has to work on his hands. Since we last saw him, he had to have made some adjustments with his hand technique, carrying them a little bit higher, being able to punch, not having to lunge so much. This is going to be a very, very good test for us to get a barometer on A, how much Kingsley's changed since we last saw him on the field, and B, if he's able to have the wherewithal to continue to improve and develop despite not being in a starting role.
Yeah, and he's got a huge matchup. I mean, it's going to be big for him to be able to just keep Carson upright and not allow a bunch of pressure. If he gets pressure of some sort, that's to be expected because Bonito is a fantastic pass rusher, and that is going to be a tough matchup regardless. Even if Suamataia had been starting all year, that would still be a tough matchup. So I expect that there's going to be pressure. It's can you keep Wentz from getting hit, and can you keep him from getting sacked? If you can keep him upright and he's not getting hit from that side, that's a win as an offensive lineman. It doesn't matter if he gets a little bit of pressure and he makes a hurry or something like that. That's bound to happen. This is the NFL. That's to be expected. Wentz has to be able to step up into the pocket and deliver the ball regardless. So to me, I think that's a fantastic matchup, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. What I'm going to be curious about is this is a game where Kansas City is likely not to show much. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago because they were playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now they're playing the Denver Broncos, both teams that they could possibly see in the playoffs. Now you're in a situation where, and the Houston Texans as well in that same time frame. Now you're in a situation where you could end up playing the Denver Broncos your first game. If for some reason they win and they end up winning against the Buffalo Bills, you'll be facing the Denver Broncos in 2 weeks. So you're not going to be giving up any kind of information. You're not going to be doing anything in this game, and it's going to be as vanilla can be. So that leads me to believe, and if Ryan, I don't know if you saw this yesterday, but our fearless co-host at Locked On Broncos said that it's going to be the two Carsons trying to steal a victory in Denver.
Well done on his part. I do think that is
Same.
what it's going to be. Sarah, you got to give him credit for putting some stuff together. The guy writes some good work there as well. If you guys wanted to get a look at the enemy, go check out Sarah and definitely check out the Broncos show here on Locked On Network. But I like where his head's at, because that's what I would be doing. And I wouldn't be bashful for it. They're going to load the line of scrimmage once you give them a couple of looks, but you got to keep pounding through it. And as much as I think that can be a bait and switch, it really sets up what I think is one of Carson Wentz's strengths, and that is true play action. The guy is a better athlete than he gets credit for, especially given the way things have ended for him in his last two stops. So let him show that a little bit. Run the actual under center play action with Carson Steele, barreling down, because they want to key on him. They want to stop the hair. I'm completely convinced of it.
Well, and they want to stop the hair. Sorry, it took a second for that to register. I will say this. I do think that when you look at this game and when you look at how this is going to play out, if Kansas City wins the turnover battle by 2, it's a close game. If it's under 2 or they lose the turnover battle, I don't think this is a close game at all, because the reality is they're going to be playing all their backups and they're going to play as vanilla as they can. And this is the other big key in this game that I see, is that I don't care if Kansas City gets down 2 or 3 scores. I don't see Andy Reid coming out and throwing the ball 40 times. If they get down early, he's going to stick with the running game and he's just going to try to bleed the clock. They're not going to bring things out. They're not going to try to pass down the field on a regular basis. They may do a couple here and there just to get guys some work, but they're not going to do it trying to get back in the game.
This is going to be a picture of my guy Sherm. It might be the after picture, right? The older guy, bald at that point, versus Steele, the before picture. So it's a flashback to when Patrick started his career in Denver as well. On the last game of the season, it's likely to be cold, just like it has been in the past. It will be a grinded out game, and I do think they'll stick with it. But every now and then, you get somebody that gets hot and can pop out of the mix and be that X factor. Who's that going to be coming up next? Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers, you can bet just $5 and you get $150 back in bonus bets if you win right now. FanDuel Sportsbook, the app, gives you everything that you need to get bets in place for the NFL all in one place. So when you got a hunch in the middle of the game, you want to check out the latest stats, you live by that play-by-play, you can do that and much more in the same page right where you place your bets. Visit FanDuel.com today and join. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, America's #1 and official sportsbook partner of the NFL. I love X Factors, and folks, make sure you check out Casey Chiefs Corner, NFL33.com, and RGRfootball.com for everything else that we're doing. X Factors will come into some of those as well. But in terms of heating up what could be a cold game, no one is hotter in Denver than Mims. Went off. The longest throw from scrimmage after everybody talked trash on Bo Nix's arm went to Mims, 71 yards in the air last week. Have to be on your guard. For me, that says that while I expect Trent McDuffie to sit despite the Pro Bowl snuff or whatever you call that, where they leave you out on purpose. I don't know how Trent McDuffie isn't a Pro Bowler, but whatever. I do expect him to sit. And so that, to me, says is Joshua Williams going to handle Courtland Sutton. I don't think that you want to change matchups beyond that. You need the physicality against Sutton. So that tells me, CRW, Najee Johnson, you're the two guys that I'm looking to take on Mims. Both of you are at a speed disadvantage because everyone is, but how you play that matchup is going to be the X factor.
I'm not going to be surprised if you're right, and they do try to keep Joshua Williams on Sutton, but I also won't be surprised if they say we don't really care about matchups and we're just going to go out there with our guys. and Williams isn't the guy, isn't maybe even playing very much. Maybe he's the third CB that comes on the field, and you got two other guys starting. Because the reality is that unless Watson comes back, Williams is likely your starter. That's the role he's been playing, and you're not going to want to put him out there and risk it if you can help it. Yeah, he needs reps. He needs to get a little bit, but I don't think he's going to be playing the whole game. And maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe they look at him as a young guy and they think, it's worth the risk. We'll see. I am curious to see. And the other thing is who are they going to bring up who are they going to play? If they bring up Steven Nelson, Williams may not even play.
Oh, that's true.
So
I have trouble seeing that one though, but.
Well, and that's possible. I mean, there's lots of different ways. Keith Taylor's still on this team as well. So you have other guys that can step in and play. I don't see a reason why you'd run Williams out there unless you absolutely feel like you have to, or you deal with injuries during the game, because that's a position where you have three other guys that can play. And Nazi really needs the experience because he hasn't played much in his career. And CRW is obviously a rookie, so he's also young as well. So all three of those guys are going to need time, and it's not going to be pretty, but I think that's the way they need to go. And we'll see if they bring up Steven Nelson.
Yeah, that'll be the question, because that's the tough part. You have just one elevation that you can use. If you don't use it there, then you're talking about 8 guys that are going to be inactive. Everybody else has to play. So do you take both your top corners? If Williams is your second and you sit both of them for the entire game, that's hard to do if you don't have enough bodies. So maybe it is that he just gets out there for a drive or two, and maybe it isn't much more than that, as you said.
Or maybe they have him on special teams and just have him do that. I mean, That's another way to take some snaps off other guys. Or maybe they look at it and say, you guys are young enough, you're going to play the entire game and special teams. It's really hard to know what they're going to do because you're in a situation where you're trying to get people reps and experience, but you're also trying to make it to where your guys that you don't want to get hurt don't get hurt. Yeah. And Watson coming back could be huge, but we don't know that that's going to happen, and that's a couple of weeks down the road. So you have to play like you're going into the playoffs with Williams as your starter through the Super Bowl.
You definitely have to. And that's where the rest of the matchup comes in to play, that you have to get the most out of what cards you're dealt. You're going up against an offensive line that's actually been playing pretty solidly. Yep. A lot of Pro Bowl votes went to Quinn Miners. A lot of Pro Bowl votes went to Bowles. But you have to attack them, and you have to have someone that can pass rush. I'm really excited to see more of Tuipulotu in this defense. Now that he's gotten, his initial reps, and see what he can do. Chris Jones isn't going to play. We don't expect much out of Charles. So the question is going to be how do they rotate the pass rushers out there on the left-hand side, on the edge, and what do they do inside? I think the guy that could come up with some scratch there could end up being Tuipulotu.
Could be. And I don't think Karlaftis is going to play either. So that would be another one that I think that you can figure is not going to be out there too much. And I think that this is a game that they're going to have Josh Uche out there, and he's going to play pretty much every single snap. At this point, he's not going to be active during the games in the playoffs more than likely. So use every single snap you can possibly get out of him and do what you can. It's going to be interesting to see if he's able to give them any kind of pass rush or show anything that changes their mind for the playoffs. But they obviously have gone away from him since he came here.
Yeah. And I'll take. I got to get something for that draft pick, right? I'll take a week 18 meaningless game sack or 3. That works for me just fine. So let's get after it. What do you think actually happens in this game, though?
It's so tough. I don't think Kansas City wins. I just don't think that. I don't even know if this game will be close. I'm not going to say that they're going to try to lose specifically, but the talent difference between playing your starters versus taking 8 of your best players off the field and playing the Denver Broncos in a game that they have to win, unless the Broncos really just screw up and turn the ball over 4 or 5 times, it's really hard for me to see Kansas City making this game a close game. Offensively, and the other part of that is offensively and defensively, they're going to be very vanilla. They're not going to try to show anything. They're not going to try to attack. They're not going to try to do stuff specifically that they would do against the Broncos because they don't want to give anything away if they play the Broncos in 2 weeks. So this is going to be more like a preseason game in a lot of ways to me. I think Kansas City loses. Unfortunately, they're going to go to 15-2 in my mind, and I think they probably lose by 2 scores.
That could happen. If you go back, this is the team that the Chiefs had to beat at the last second, 14-16.
Yep.
Since that game, Denver Broncos have put up 38, 29, 41, 31, 27, and 24 against starter-level defenses. So I do think I agree with you. It's going to be more of a problem than it was the last time these two teams met. But I also think there's a spark there with Carson Wentz. And I think I wish Washington was here to show us some things we saw in camp, but I do think there's going to be enough there. In the end, I think what'd you have them? I had them 14-3 when we did our preseason prediction. I think
I think that's
is that where you were
about
at
where I
too?
was.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I had it about 14-3 or 13-4. I had them losing obviously a couple more games and didn't have them winning against the Bills, which is obviously didn't happen, but they've played better. And the bigger thing, and this is something else I said on the crossover, and Sayer and I talked about a little bit on the crossover. If you haven't seen that, go check that out. Kansas City playing so many close games. While this one's not going to be close in my mind, it's going to matter in the playoffs. And that's really what all the season has come down to. They know where they are. They know what they have to do. They have a great grasp of who they are as a team, and they're only getting better. They got so much better the last 2 weeks when Hollywood Brown came back. Their offense evolved, and Chris Jones didn't play, and they got more pressure than they ever have. And he should be healthy for whoever they end up playing in 2 weeks.
Yeah, agreed. In the end, I think they're going to put up more points. I have the Broncos taking this one 24-17. We'll see if it actually works out that way. But hey, we'd love to know what you think. What is your prediction? Put it in the comments here on the YouTube platform. Hit us on social media. Do all the 9 yards where you like and sub and subscribe everywhere. We very much appreciate you. Hope you're ready for the regular season finale, because that is what's coming up. And as soon as that is over, we turn our attention to the wild card weekend, resting this team up and getting ready for everybody who's out there. A lot of film work to go on. Please make sure that you're with us the whole entire way. It's been a great regular season. Now we're on to the meat and potatoes of what this team is about. Don't miss a single episode. We're here for you 5 days a week. Plus, thanks for being with us tonight, and we'll talk to you next time.